bill, and I'm going to try and limit testimony to 2 minutes each because we have a lot of people, and you might want to address the concerns of Senator Walsh in your testimony if you can. Shaun Bickley, Adrienne Stuart, Amelia Gross. Start with you guys.
Good morning. My name is Shaun Bickley. I'm an autistic person who organized a campaign to end minimum wage in Seattle. And I would like to say nothing about us without us. We do not want this. We have 80 organizations which have signed up in support, including self-advocacy organizations across the state and in Eastern Washington. This is not something we want or have ever wanted. And we're moving forward right now. New Hampshire, Maryland, Alaska, Vermont, and Rhode Island have all banned minimum wage. Seattle and Reno, Nevada. Right now we have bills in Kentucky, Oregon, Hawaii, and in the federal legislature. One of them by Representative Kathy McMorris Rogers. And this is something that's happening. We are, as of next month, pre-vocational employment is no longer going to be allowed. People will not be able to pay minimum wage for pre-vocational employment. The idea that everyone who's in a workshop is high acuity is untrue. 60% of people who are in shelter workshops right now are medium acuity. And this is not a successful means of employing disabled people. It hasn't worked for decades. We've had it since 1938. What has worked is supported employment and getting people in jobs that make sense for them, rather than cookie cutter solutions where everyone who's born in this town goes to this workshop. Everyone who lives in this town has to go to this workshop and do this one job. That doesn't make sense. That's not how you picked your jobs that you wanted. I turned down the chance to work in shelter work in Houston when I was younger because I didn't see the point in working $4.65 an hour. I certainly don't see it now. Having these, you know, it's not just about choice. When you put these choices in front of people where this is the only choice that they have, you force people into situations that aren't great. And I just want to say that this is not, these choices are not neutral. We have funding that goes into them, and people are, and minimum wage is subsidized right now, and it shouldn't be, and we want to have equal pay.
Thank you very much, Shaun. Thank you for your testimony. Adrienne?
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Adrienne Stuart. I'm the Executive Director of Community Employment Alliance, mentioned previously by Senator Walsh. I only have 2 minutes, so I can't address all of her concerns, but I just want to offer that I have been and will continue to avail myself to anyone who wants to understand more or work together to find different options, different funding revenues that are workable, that are allowed under the federal law, and that are allowed under the changes that are coming down from the federal government. As a parent and as a sibling, I also feel, a parent and a sibling of people with disabilities, I also feel very strongly about this issue, although I do come out on the other side of Senator Walsh, and like Seth Dawson said earlier, hopefully try to disagree without being disagreeable. As I said, I'm the Executive Director of CEA. I'm here to testify in support of this bill to eliminate sub-minimum wage certificates. CEA is an advocacy organization working to ensure people with disabilities have the same employment opportunities as all other citizens. CEA's 30 members across the state serve thousands of people with disabilities who have work or who are looking for work. We strongly believe that eliminating some minimum wage certificates is a paramount civil rights issue. We believe minimum should be minimum for everyone. Self-advocate, in your materials, I'll leave with you, there's a statement from a self-advocate over in the 8th Legislative District who works 6 hours a week, 5 days a week, earning about $20 a week. You know, I do want to differentiate the notion that this is a living wage. Minimum wage is not a living wage from basically anywhere in the state. Okay, there's a difference between the two. I know you know that. And so I know our time is brief, but I just want to say that this bill will have no fiscal impact on the state of Washington, and I ask you to pass this out with a do pass recommendation. I will add just briefly that Senator Conway has primed 2 bills that address some of Senator Walsh's concerns in getting more respite care options for people with disabilities. Thank you.
Amelia.
Good morning, Madam Chair and committee members. My name is Amelia Gross, and I speak to you today as a sister, a friend, and a consultant in support of 5753. For my whole life, I've watched my well-resourced family struggle through confusing and frustrating systems just to get my brother's basic needs met. And all we've ever wanted for my brother was for him to have the same opportunities as everyone else. And unfortunately, I can't say that that has been true. So I ask you today to take a minute and think about your children, think about your nieces and nephews working, and after working a couple weeks hard, they get their paycheck, and their paycheck is only a fraction of what their coworkers make. As it stands, there's still too much segregation and bias and missed opportunity for people with disabilities, and people with disabilities are often the last group of people invited to the table. And they have been very clear that sub-minimum wage needs to end. So as an able-bodied ally, my duty is to follow them, which is why I sit here today speaking to you. I am an employment first consultant. I work across the state of Washington. Currently, I'm working in districts 33, 37, and 41. I also work in other states across the country, and I've worked with countless people who were once deemed unemployable, those folks who have significant disabilities and are now in integrated competitive work, making minimum wage or more, and because of that, they have been able to slowly transition off of SSI and SSDI, which is a benefit for Washington State's economy. I have also worked with employers, both big and small, who have successfully hired people with significant disabilities, and the difference is those folks are rightfully accommodated. That is the big issue here, is we are long from the point of providing the right accommodations so people can be competitive workers in the workforce. I also work with 14C holders, and I've watched them transition successfully out of sheltered work. This past fall, the National Council on Disability published a report. It's titled National Disability Employment Policy from the New Deal to the Real Deal, Joining the Industries of the Future, and they outline different solutions of how to phase out of sub-minimum wage. So I say that sub-minimum wage is antiquated, it's discriminatory, and in order for us to follow and align with Washington State's pledge of employment first policy, 5753 needs to be passed in order for equitable reform to continue. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for this panel? Senator Walsh.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So you're a job coach or an employment counselor, is that correct?
No, I'm a consultant.
Okay, and so do you mind if I ask what you make an hour?
What I make an hour?
What's your salary?
I make $28 an hour.
Okay, and so do you not factor in the fact that folks with disabilities get benefits from the government? I mean, you're talking about, you know, fair is fair and equal is equal. Well, most workers don't get benefits from the federal government or from the government because they have a disability. Our folks with disabilities certainly do. I find it hard to believe that we phase people off of Social Security disability as well. That is hard for me to believe. I'd like to know from the staff how much these folks who are doing the job coaching or finding the employment for these people are making an hour. And I'd like to know how many hours have been cut since we did away with, since we adopted the community first or employment first policy. I'd like to know how many hours these kids are working now, especially in Eastern Washington, because I'm telling you, it's just not the straight across the board for this state. This bill is going to really harm people in my district. I just want you to know that. I appreciate what you do. I really do. We're going to keep talking, Adrienne, but we've got to make a change here because this is going to hurt my kids in Eastern Washington.
Ma'am, with all due respect, these are not kids, they're adults.
Thank you very much. Now I'm going to call forward Ivanova